Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Annerine Wenold. I'm the director of Kairos Academy South Africa, where we support South African homeschool families following the American High School Diploma pathway. As you guys, my husband and I also homeschooled our 3 children, so I do understand both the privilege and the responsibility of helping our children prepare well for life beyond school. Now, as many of our students are preparing for tertiary studies, this afternoon's Kairos Tertiary Spotlight places the focus on NWU's Faculty of Engineering. With our youngest son now also studying at that institute towards his mechanical engineering degree, it is a particular privilege for me to share the screen with 2 of its faculty members. First, I would like to introduce Willemien Creer. Willemien is a well-known figure in the South African homeschool community, but is nowadays a lecturer in industrial engineering at NWU. She's a homeschool mother of 3, and those of you that have used the Allesomvattend Afrikaans curriculum, Willemien was the author of that. 2 of Willemien's children matriculated through Kairos, and her youngest son is currently studying and excelling in mechatronic engineering at NWU. Willemien therefore brings not only professional insight from within the Faculty of Engineering, but also valuable personal experience of supporting homeschooled learners on their journey towards tertiary studies. So, Willemien, it's awesome to have you here. We are also very pleased to welcome Christo van der Merwe. Christo will share further insight into the Faculty of Engineering, its programs, and the opportunities available to prospective engineering students. And Christo, we are very glad to have you here. Willemien, thank you for making your time and expertise available to our families, and we are really looking forward to hear from you. Just in terms of our proceedings, we will give Willemien and Christo now an opportunity to present, after which we will have a short question and answer session. And you're welcome to add your questions to the chat function at any time during the presentation, and we will address as many as possible afterwards. So Willemien and Christo, over to you.
Thank you, Annerine. I think Christo will take the lead. He will be presenting. From my side, I just wanted to say hello allemaal van julle. I'm so glad to see so many homeschoolers still believing in educating your own children. For that season of my life is over, and it's been the most wonderful, really privileged years that one can have. And I can tell you that nobody warns you how interesting life can become when you have children, but then there is the sad part when they leave home and they actually do everything that you have prepared them for, and then it's still just so sad that season is over. So enjoy the season you are in still, appreciate that, and know that there's a wonderful time lying ahead, not only for your children, but maybe also for yourself. I'm very privileged to have a new career here at the university now, and I am really enjoying myself having to do with young students, young people now in my capacity as a lecturer. But over to Christo then.
Hi everyone. Yes, thank you very much. I think that was a good introduction by Willemien, and thank you for inviting us. It's always a privilege to tell young people about engineering. My friends are mocking me. They're saying I'm an engineering preacher, but I think that there's so much opportunities and such a good future prospects for careers that we do it way not too much. So I'll be doing a quick presentation, as you can see, and it's always nice to just see the words and while I'm talking. But please, if there's any questions afterwards, you all have our contact details. Please take confidence to just call us or send messages, and we'll apply our minds to it and answer it as good as we can. So yes, that is actually not a picture of the Faculty of Engineering. Those of you who visited the campus know that's the main building. But we also have an impressive building at the Faculty of Engineering. And I'll work that in with the new slide. So the first question, of course, that I want to answer is what is engineering? And then gradually I'll move down to some of the more detailed information. But it's always important just to know what engineering is, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about engineering. Many people think it's just someone. I had people asking me, oh, so I'm the kind of guy that repair the lawnmowers, or can you fix my radio, or do you know this cable is broken, can you just fix it for me? Yes, we can do that, but that is not engineering. So according to Wikipedia, which is the source that most people peruse on a regular basis, I'd like to use that because I think that is very wide. Now, engineering is the application of mathematics and scientific, economic, social, and practical knowledge in order to invent, innovate, design, build, maintain, research, and improve structures, machines, tools, systems, components, materials, processes, solutions, and organizations. Now, that is quite broad, but it clearly indicates that it is focused on mathematics and science, and that the activities around that is very, very, very broad. So it's invention, innovation, design, build. But once that is built and the system is in place, it's very important to maintain it. So maintenance is a very big part of our industry. And research, well, that is typically what we do at the universities to improve existing methodologies and systems. And on what is engineering done? Well, that can be a small system, as you see on that picture on the right-hand side. It can literally be an integrated circuit on a computer board. That can be the complete system. But if you talk to people like Wilhelmine, they'll tell you, no, that we don't even see that. On the level we operate, we are looking at organizations. So they have a much wider view. So that really varies between a structure, a machine, tools, systems, components, materials, processes, solutions, and even organizations. So depending on where you want to play, the field is open. Now, that's just some, I'll skip that. Mission of the faculty, basically education and research. So we like to develop engineers that can change the world and perform research that is focused on answering the most pressing questions. And we like to practice what we preach. So whatever we do, we incorporate that into the classes as well, and we apply our own what we preach to the students. Now, I always like to start off with the value proposition, and I want to clearly state that we are EXA accredited. Sometimes that gets lost in the noise, but that means that EXA, the Engineering Council of South Africa, they come to the university every 4 years. They visit us and they audit all of our programs. So they need to check that we do stuff according to what they expect. And that is quite an exhausting exercise. They are really, really, really comprehensive in what they look at. They look at all the projects, all the programs, and make sure that it adheres to the standards they set. Now, the first thing is, if you are EXA accredited, of course, you can deliver graduates that can register as professional engineers. Now, that's also interesting because some people, they only think of lawyers and doctors and say, what else, accountants as professional people, but engineers also registered as a PR-Eng, which means it's a professional in the technology industry. And according to all the Exsa is a signatory of the Washington Accord. So all these countries that you see on that picture, they are members. So if you get your degree in South Africa, you can go and work in Ireland, Peru, Turkey, China, Malaysia, Japan, any one of those countries, and they will acknowledge your degree. So that's quite important just to state that. And we have our upcoming Exsa visit now, the 20th and the 21st of August. So yeah, we're busy with that process. So let's just quickly go to the faculties that we have. The first one is at the Faculty of Engineering is the School for Chemical Engineering. Now the structure is it's a faculty at the top, and the dean runs the faculty, and then it's below that is the various schools, and in the schools we have the school directors, and we have the program managers below the school directors. So we have the School for Chemical Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, Industrial Engineering, and Electric, Electronic, and Computer Engineering. So that's the 4 schools that we have. It's some nice pictures, and those pictures, they basically they speak 1,000 words. That's just to show you chemical and mechanical and industrial and some electrical stuff. All right, now the first of one, the School for Chemical Engineering. The degree is a B.Eng. It is a baccalaureate engineering in chemical engineering. And I tied this definitions back to the big one so you can see how it fits together. But chemical engineering, basically research, design, development, and management of industrial processes during which raw materials are converted to products with higher economic value. Now, the important thing with chemical engineering is it's usually confused with chemistry or a chemist. Now, both of them, the chemical engineer and the chemist, will be able to sort out the chemical formula. But it's the chemical engineer that can scale it. So you can make a specific amount of a chemical substance by just adding a few chemical substances together, but the scaling is done by the chemical engineer. So the chemical engineer will put down a plant and design a plant, as in the picture, to refine ore and to get gold out of the ore. Something that is must be economically viable and all those things. So all the calculations and the design of the plant, that is the job of the chemical engineer. So it's a bit beyond just pure chemistry. Now, in chemical engineering, some of the research that we are doing, alternative fuels, minerals processing and refining, chemical thermodynamics, separations, nanotechnology, environmental engineering, hydrometallurgy, HISA, so that's the Hydrogen SA initiative, modeling and control of chemical systems. Just to give a broad overview of chemical engineering. Then we have mechanical engineering. Within mechanical engineering, we have 2 undergraduate courses, and that is the B.Eng in mechanical engineering and the B.Eng in electromechanical engineering. Now, this is where the program managers come in. So you'll have the director for the School of Mechanical Engineering, and then you'll have a program manager for mechanical engineering and the program manager for electromechanical engineering. Now, that's the 2 big undergraduate courses, and then we also offer some specialization in nuclear engineering. That is a postgraduate diploma as well as an MSc and a PhD in nuclear engineering. Now, what is mechanical engineering? Mechanical engineering focuses on the research, design, development, and management of transport systems, energy systems, manufacturing systems, HVAC systems, that's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, weapon systems, manufacturing equipment, process equipment, mining equipment, etc. So it's also a very, very wide, I think of all the engineering, the widest discipline where you can start. So if someone wants to be someone who designs aeroplanes, he can also go through the mechanical engineering route and specialize in aeronautic engineering. I mentioned that specifically because we have a spin-off company. 3 of our lecturers at mechanical engineering, they are in the industry of manufacturing sailplanes. Here in Potch, over weekends, you see those beautiful sailplanes in the air. So another spin-off is CFAN, which is a manufacturing company specializing in manufacturing extruders, more specifically twin screw extruders. That's machines making all these foods like dog food, cat food, fish feed, and then as well like the Fruit Loops and cheese curls and all those, they are made using extruders. All of that made by mechanical engineers. Then the other program that we have, mechanical engineering, is electromechanical engineering. Now, the definition is it's ensure the safe and efficient operations of plants and factories by combining elements of electrical and mechanical engineering, technical knowledge, and also some legal knowledge of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Now, what you'll see there typically is they talk about the legal appointment of a factory or in the mining environment. Now, we saw that shortcoming that people usually just study mechanical engineering or pure electrical engineering, and then they need to get some experience and extra courses, and then they'll do what we call their government ticket, and then you will be in a position to apply for a legal appointment. Now, this course was meant to streamline that process and to make it easier to write your government ticket and to be basically in control of the legal appointment at a factory or the specific mine. The pictures that you see, there's some electrical systems here, modeling and mechanical, but that is big systems. So we're talking about typical mills and stuff that's used in factories, big machines, big motors, big mechanical systems. I mentioned that because it's different from mechatronics, which we'll discuss later on. Okay, then the School of Industrial Engineering. We have a friend here who's very capable in that, so she can just chip in if she needs to say something there. But if you look on that slide, it's the bench in Industrial Engineering. And Industrial Engineering are concerned with the design, improvement, and installations of integrated processes and systems of people, materials, information, equipment, and energy. So industrial engineers look at things much more holistically, meaning they are the big picture people. So they look at this whole scenario and see how the elements of systems fit together and work together. And according to Wilhelmine, they have a lot of fun to make things better. So they are the people that optimize stuff and just take out the slip of ordinary operations. So, for example, I just want to read what she said. We take what our colleagues have designed, something like a drone, and they design a factory that makes thousands of those drones per day. Now, as you can think, there's many possible ways that you can put those parts together. But the industrial engineers, they design that process. Look, what is the optimal way of putting that drone together so it is economically viable and it's made in the shortest amount of time. So they also design the process, the facility, and manage the operations and understand the supply chain and logistics. So how everything comes together. You can think if you are constructing or manufacturing something like a Boeing, it's just a huge amount of parts that must come together at the right time to make that Boeing. So, Wilhelmine, can you score me on that? Is that what you do? You want to add something?
Wilhelmine, just unmute yourself, or are you struggling?
Yeah, okay, there I can unmute myself. Yeah, Christy, you can just continue. You are on the right track. So,
I tried to use the opportunity just to take a sip of coffee, but that's fine. Okay. That's also a picture of industrial engineering to show you the type of skills that you will need. So it's an integration. You have to do some business process analysis, draw some blocks, and see what's happening. And then you'll use mathematics, lots of that, to design this process and to optimize it. And last of all, you'll simulate it. So it's very interesting, and to see those simulations, they literally have people walking around and doing things, and they can draw statistics from those models. And it's quite impressive to see how close that can be to reality. Without building a complete factory to see you make a boo-boo, you can simulate everything and see if the optimal configuration is in place or not, and where it must be improved. Okay, lastly, we have the School of Electrical, Electronic, and Computer Engineering, and we offer 3 degrees there. It's the BEng in Electrical Electronic Engineering, Computer Electronic Engineering, and then Mechatronic Engineering. Now, let's just briefly give an overview of that. So the first one is the BEng in Electrical and Electronic Engineering. That's the traditional thick wire, high current type of discipline where we look at energy. So the definition is the research, design, maintenance, and improvement of systems that generate, distribute, and utilize electrical energy. So we look at power plants, generators, big motors, ball mills like you see here, and then stuff like power quality, which is a big research area where we can improve. Renewable energy, also a huge area where things are moving quite fast. And we need engineers to design those systems and to commission them and to make sure they run as intended. Now, the one term that you see there that's common, I move over to computer electronic engineering, as you see the electronics stays the same. So I always like to clarify that. The electronics permeated almost all the disciplines that we know about. So that is why it's always in the name, because you'll use electronic devices in all of these disciplines. Now, the BEng in computer and electronic engineering is about information. So that's research, design, maintenance, and improvement of systems that generate, distribute, and utilize information. So if you send a WhatsApp, it's an information system. If you measure a temperature and you send it back to a control room and you need to make some decisions, it's an information system. So computer electronic engineers will look at those systems to see how the information is gathered and stored and measured and used and processed. The same with AI systems. That's also a discipline of computer electronic engineering. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see there's some a screenshot of an oscilloscope. There's a microchip and a circuit board, motherboard, and a communication system. So that's truly a good, I think, summary of what computer electronic engineering is about. The last one is the BEng in mechatronic engineering. Now, mechatronic engineering, the focus is on industrial automation. So research, design, maintenance, improvement of industrial automation systems. If you look at those pictures, you typically see robots. It's these big robots, but it can also be robots like in robotics, small, like these toy robots and humanoids. That's mechatronic engineering. And what makes it mechatronic engineering is there's a very high level of integration between mechanical systems and mechanical engineering and computer electronic engineering. But it's not electromechanical since it's smaller. Electromechanical is more focused on big machines and systems used in mining and factories, as I said. So here, for instance, in an automobile manufacturing plant, you'll have these robotic arms, and some of them will be doing spray painting, cutting, welding, all of those things. and they must be controlled, and that's typically and designed, and that's the job of a mechatronic engineer. Industry 4.0, the buzzword that you always see, well, that's industrial automation and getting the data from all the correct places and putting it together. That's also a big part of mechatronic engineering. Then just a brief, all of these exciting study fields, I must give some attention to the admission. That's quite high. So we need mathematics at 70% and physical sciences also at 70%. And then your home or your first additional language, level 5, which is 60%. And the APS score must be around 34. Now, if you don't make it, sometimes it happens. We have an excellent initiative which we call the Excel program. And we basically help students to get that maths and physics skills up to standard by doing a year a bridging program, and we have excellent results. It happens. People do well with mathematics, and in the final exam, their marks just plummet. So we have that opportunity, and I see I put the engineering test, but that's quite outdated. I always forget to. So just ignore the engineering test. We had that in the past, but it's not applied anymore. Just some more interesting pictures. This is our typical lecture room. If you see, it's quite old students, but I took this photograph at one of our planning sessions. So this is all lecturers sitting here. And then we have a picture here of a typical final year project. So if you finish your degree, you will need to build a project on your own. And you have to prove that you can design something and start with a problem and put a solution on the table. And in its essence, that is what engineering is about. You need to solve problems, real world problems. Sometimes you know exactly how to solve the problem. Sometimes you don't have a clue and you need to invent a lot of new things. So that is what makes it really challenging. And that is also the reason why we put such a big focus on mathematics and physics. You have to use that as the tools to translate the problem into a domain that you can solve it. And the equivalencies, if you're a lawyer, you need to understand some Latin. That's the language that you speak to understand many of these contracts. Now, the same with engineering. Mathematics is the language that we speak. So, yeah, but that is what you will be able to do if you are in your final year. You get some people from industry and you present your final year project and you get a mark according to that. And then we have some, we call it graduate attributes. That is specific attributes. There's 11 of them that you need to demonstrate competency. So it's quite a rigorous approach that or a process that you go through when you are developed as an engineer for the 4 years. And each one of those GAs will focus on something specific. For instance, problem solving and using engineering tools, professional communication, teamwork, mathematical tools, using tools and programs, software programs. So there's 11 of them, and we really go to great lengths to see that each and every one of our graduates conform to the 11 GAs. Okay. The question I always get is, what about bursaries? And now you need to start paying for these studies. So from your first year, once you apply, it happens automatically. They look at your final marks. And I must admit, the university has quite good merit bursaries, very, very good bursaries. So those average that you see, if you, for instance, get average percentage of 75 to 79, you'll get 25% of your tuition fees. If you go to 75% or 80 to 84% average, you get 75% of your fees covered. And if you really put shoulder to the wheel and you get an average of 85 to 100, you get 100% of your fees off. So I think that's an excellent motivation for the young people out there to really graft and see, well, it can be, I always tell the people that's in the mainstream schools, it can be cheaper than school for your parents. So I think that's a big motivation to really do well and see that you get those marks up and get your
I
first
think
year paid for.
I think Northeast University has one of the best merit bursary schemes in the country.
Yes, yeah, I agree with Wilhelmine. I think you can study for free by just doing well. And then from there on, I always tell people, so once your first year marks are in, you have something to show. And then you can apply for bursaries at some of the industries. They come to the university. We have a few days that they come there and they offer bursaries, or they send to the bursary office, and you apply via the bursary office. Claudie Kruse is the person handling that, but that's details that you get to when you study with at our university. Um, just some interesting pictures I like to put up. That's a picture of our solar car. That's one of the initiatives, and they are busy building or finishing that car, because we are competing in the solar car challenge this year again. I think it's, Philomene, I don't know if you can fill in there, but I
I
think
think
it's within
the race starts early in September,
yeah.
and it's a international race. The School of Mechanical Engineering are primarily involved with that, but I mean any student can get involved in that project.
Yes, and that what makes that really a flagship of ours is all the technology you see there were developed by people directly involved with the university. I
Yeah.
spoke about the sailplane, so as you can see, that car looks like one of the sailplanes. So Professor Bosman and Jonker, they are involved with the sailplanes, and they share their knowledge to the students, and the students help them to build that solar car. So we don't farm it out to external engineers. We do it on our own. And if you want to be part of that as a student, even if you just want to do media work, or you want to be the cook, or whatever you want to pass spanners, you can be part of that team. So it's a highlight, and they also always remember that. So, and usually they log all the hours and the progress of the cars. So by September, please be on the lookout. Look on our social media. We report on that to track our progress, and follow along with us and see how our car performs. I think it will perform quite well. So I just phoned one of my colleagues before this presentation, and I had a chat with him, and he said he was quite in a hurry. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No, I'm busy with the solar car. So what do you want? We'll talk later." So they are quite in a push at this stage to get things, the last things done. Just a slide of our sailplane that's developed by the Jonker brothers, JS Jonker sailplanes, named after them. It's the two guys at the sides, and in the middle, it's quite an old photo because they added some gray in the meantime, but that is Prof. Bosman and Atti Jonker, which is that's Ace Jonker. As Prof. Atti Jonker, he's now currently the director of the School for Mechanical Engineering. So that's the type of people that we have, and where you will study. People that don't even only have the knowledge, they can turn this into industry. They can build businesses, and they can really apply their knowledge to make really interesting things. The last one is a picture of a twin screw extruder. Now, CFAM is also a factory just 10 kilos out of town, and they are manufacturing this complete system, exporting it to Africa, to China, all over the world. And as you see, it's 5 different sizes of machines. Please go, and if you just go on YouTube and you look for CFAM, you'll see those machines, those people passionate about agricultural systems and food processing. It's a world that goes open. So engineering is not only about I study engineering and I will build a measurement system. If you like agricultural systems, as you can see, you can design the controller for this machine, or you can work just on the temperature measurement or the internet operation of this machine, and develop systems where you can switch off on this machine via the internet. So so the focus can be on agriculture, but you studied electrical engineering. Another question that I get asked a lot is, what about biomedical? Now, you can also look on our social media. You'll see one of our lecturers, Jan Thompson, features quite frequently. And he is an amputee, and he decided he wants to develop prosthetic limbs. Now, he studied electrical engineering, but he's busy with biomedical applications. And they are doing quite well. They are a young, dynamic group working in that area, and they did not study biomedical engineering, but they are working as biomedical, or it's close to biomedical. They're doing biomedical applications. So that's quite an inspiring story as well. I like to mention that. So please go and look at that. And once a year, they have a competition, the Cybathlon. So they develop these prosthetic limbs, and the students compete in this competition to showcase and to see what these limbs can do. So that's also something worth following and looking up. Yeah, well, I think that's it from my side. If you leave me, I can speak for hours. So, but please, if there's anything else, I'm going to keep quiet now.
Okay, anything that you would like to add to that, Wilhelmine? Thank you, Christy. So, Henri, if you can just unmute Wilhelmine.
Yeah, so. No, I think as passionate as Christy is about engineering, I can also say that engineers, we design things. We think of it's an applied science, so we see problems that we want to solve, not just theoretically, but practically. So we are very practice based. A lot of our research areas are also very focused on doing practical work with industry partners in the field. And as Christo showed, a lot of our engineering staff has their own businesses as well, where they do work, real work, real engineering work. So we have a very professional complement of lecturers here with lots of experience and knowledge. So we would love some questions.
Okay, so thank you for that, Wilhelmine and Christy, for the information that was shared, and giving a picture of what engineering may look like. Christy, I've been in the chemical industry here in Sasolburg for 20 years. So, I've been surrounded by engineers, and they are very down-to-earth people. My husband is an engineer as well, so I live and breathe mechanical engineering anyway. But yeah, so we really appreciate your time where you explained the opportunities. We are over time. How much time do we have? Maybe another 5-10 minutes for questions. Christy, Wilhelmine?
I have 5 minutes extra. It's fine.
Okay, awesome. So thank you for that. So thank you for sharing the admission requirements as well. What I just want to highlight for our families on the American High School Diploma pathway, typically what NWU requires is the pre-calculus as a minimum for maths, together with the chemistry and physics. It will be the same, Carol, for your Cambridge environment. You need those IS levels in those subjects, together with a grade 12 English, specifically pertaining to the American High School Diploma. At the School of Engineering, they also have got higher level of SAT requirements that needs to be met. So just make sure that you've got that. And typically, if you meet the 3.5 requirement that is stipulated by the matriculation board for the American high school diploma students. You qualify for that 100% bursary at NWU. So it really makes it financially, apart from all the benefits that you've heard, financially more viable. What Wilhelmine also mentioned to me, and I will get to the questions to post to Christo and Wilhelmine, but the fact that it's not that large a faculty, Christo. So there's opportunity for more one-on-one interaction, especially after the first year, where there's still a lot of students bunched together, correct?
Yeah, we pride ourselves that we can still give that personal attention, and some of the class are big. I'm just thinking in terms of my second year class that I present now. I have 150 students, so it's big, but it's still manageable. But I know some of the other universities, you have 1,000 students in a class. That's a complete different level that you need to operate on. So yes, like I said, we pride ourselves that we can still give that personal attention, but that's just because we have a limited amount of students.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the advantage of having smaller classes is that you get to know the students fairly soon, early in the studies, and then you build relationship with them. So it's a supportive environment, and also, yeah, I think it's the fact that you get to know the students' personalities and their character and so on and so on. So it is different. I have had colleagues at the University of Pretoria telling me how interesting it was. We've worked together on an exam, on interview, having interviews with people, with students, and they said that it's very much different. So that is something to consider if that is important for you as a student, to build relationship.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I think for homeschoolers, that typically is, so there's
I see there's a question on do we have limits on students? So yes, of course so there will not be a limit on the admissions, but obviously people need to apply first, and that can then be there's an unlimited quantity that can apply, but then obviously then they will have to meet the requirements, and then they are admitted. Currently, we as a faculty are still looking for admissions, so we're really welcome to apply to become, especially at the Faculty of Engineering. We're still looking for admissions.
Awesome. Thank you, Wilhelmine. So there's also a question pertaining to further open days. I know you had your engineering week and open day earlier this year. Are there other opportunities, or if a student want to visit, how can a student go about?
He's always around, taking people around, so you can just come here to meet him.
Yeah, so you can just schedule an appointment. I changed it. In the past, I had a lecture room and I spoke to the people, but the one-on-ones, I take you through the faculty. I show you everything we have, take some questions. So they can just schedule an appointment, and then I'll make a plan to show them. They're welcome anytime. I usually schedule it on Fridays, so because most people prefer Fridays. So, but if you want to come, you're welcome. Just contact us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that kind invite. And maybe I see there's not so much. Oh, there's another question. My son plans on taking 2 gap years to do missionary work. Will this affect his application process?
So in principle, if you choose to do a gap year after school, that will not affect your application in terms of the meeting the requirements. It will just affect when you can apply, because you will then only apply in 2 years' time when you want to study after the break. So something that I do want to mention is just as being having been in my homeschool by myself, is that please do remember during admissions, the admissions officers at our campus and then also at the faculty is not. I mean, yes, marks are important. Your grades that you've attained is one important criteria, but that's not the only criteria they look at. They are also always looking for a well-rounded individual. So if there's, for instance, a student and a child that has been exposed to sort of a variety of things and maybe shown an interest in building stuff and, you know, developing his own, maybe coding his own programs and so on from a young age, I would really love to encourage those homeschoolers to please don't think that you can't apply because your grades are not that high. You know, do understand that those kind of experiences can be added in the form of a sort of a CV to to be sort of to accompany your application, because that also counts points. We have found over the years that even some of my colleagues have found that even the industry, they are looking at applications differently. Marks alone are not the only thing that one looks at. You look at practical experience and inquisitiveness and being curious and so on. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I am going to stop the questions for now. You know, if there are any further questions, you're welcome to read it. I saw that Christo did add his contact details there as well, or I can get you in touch so you can reach out to Kairos as well and we can assist with the contact. But I just want to thank you again, Wilhelmine and Christo, for your time that you've availed to us. And then for our students, remember, as Wilhelmina said, you don't need to have every detail of your future worked out today. Continue to work diligently, you know, to ask the right questions or just to ask questions, build a strong foundation in the math and sciences, chemistry and physics if you want to become an engineer. And yeah, make wise use of the opportunities that God has placed in front of you. So yeah, we wish then Wilhelmine, Christo and all of you every blessing for the road ahead. Thank you for being here and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Anarine, can I just add one thing?
Welcome.
There's always just one question. People ask me, okay, if we want to study, what should we focus on? Is there anything extra we can do? And then I tell them, just make sure you do well. The same message you gave, do well with the maths and the science. It's like practicing for a marathon. If you are nice and fit, you'll run through the mathematics and the applied maths and the signal theory and all those things that require maths. Programming will also help you if you have a basic understanding, but it's not necessary to do all these programming courses and all those things. You are well prepared, and I include especially the homeschooling people. They are really well prepared for university and at a very high standard. I had the lady this morning that I spoke to, one of our students, and she was homeschooled and she does really, really well. So there's no problem. I can comment on all your curriculum is different, but we have people that look at that as well. So don't worry about that. Maths, science, some programming.
Awesome.
Fine.
Awesome. Thank you for that closure, Christo. Yeah, so thank you everyone. We will post this on our YouTube channel, make it available via YouTube and other social media, and I'll share the link through to you guys as well, Christo and Wilhelmine.
Caroline, dankie vir die
Thank you
geleentheid.
guys. Have a lovely
Lekker
day.
middag.
Bye-bye.
Tata.
Thank you. Dankie.